Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast, Season 4.
With your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out.
Boom! What's up, you guys? We're back for another podcast. This podcast is going to be special. They're all special, but there's certain ones where this one's really going to help you guys level up if you take advantage of it when it comes to learning and tactics and becoming the most proficient protectors that you can be, getting that edge. Like everyone's always Googling cheat codes and, 6-minute abs and all this stuff. Like this actually legitimately like is a cheat code we're about to let it drop on you here. So I'm on this podcast with Vance McMurray of AutoTelic Performance Solutions. And we're about to take y'all to the next level, man. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. I'm honored to be here, sir. 100%. It's especially the guys like what you're doing and everybody that listens and the kind of guests that you've had on your podcast, man. I feel not worthy more than anything. So I'm grateful for the time,
100%. That is, it's humbling to hear that. And, man, it's just good people trying to do good work, and the battlefield changes, like once upon a time, we're out there doing whatever we were doing in the sand or out wherever they had us. And now we're kind of fighting a different battle, to get our skills and capabilities, try to improve the protectors of the planet, man. This is a whole nother kind of game, so we're still in it.
Yeah. Hey, man, the fascinating thing is like, this shit hadn't changed, right? It's all the same stuff, right? Just pull the trigger more type of thing, right? Like it's what it's always been. And, that's what's super fascinating to me and the people that we work with. And my business partner is like that. This is like really the first big thing that's happened in our industry that can change things and move things more than 1 or 2 or 3%, right?
Yep. Because with two things on that, like one, the tactics are getting out there. Everybody's getting tactics. Like, the tactics they're evolving really quickly. Everyone's can hop online and Google and get up in there and do a lot of damage with understanding how to fight. Even the gaming world is improving tactics. You get an airsofter running around. That could be a problem, but this having a cognitive edge, that's an advantage. And also, with all the trauma that our demographic sustains, having something that can possibly help with that is huge. The other thing, man, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's I'm trying to think how to frame like this short story up.
Just hit it, man.
So, you think through like what got me into this, right? Was shooting faster and more accurately, right? Mm-hmm. Like I had a couple guys on my team back in the day that were just like, out of the matrix type stuff. And to a young, like 28, 29-year-old guy, like it was something I'd never seen before. And it's still, now 30 years later, I've romanticized about it and here we are. But, what's really drawing us a lot in the law enforcement space is this whole wellness side of this, right? Is, the cognitive side that you mentioned, but, as I push into this, like I was doing a ride along with Austin EMS just a couple of weeks ago, and two paramedics on the truck. But both of them, one has been a paramedic for 30 years, prior Army guy, was an infantry guy. The other one, been a paramedic for 20 years, but was a medic in 2nd Ranger Battalion. And so he had a bunch of deployments to Afghanistan. And so when we do what I was doing with him was doing our performance reboot. Like I'd sent you that one pager on the reboot, right? Which just massively suppresses the sympathetic nervous system. And so I did one at the beginning of the shift to measure like the reduction in anxiety. And I could tell like this cat, like, it's not unusual for guys with his background that he was kind of fighting it. Like the normal effect that I see on guys, especially with high stress dudes like this, like it's much more material. And so
he was managing, but you could see the numbers.
Yeah. And so I just kind of let it run its thing. And as the shift goes on, right, we start talking to him, and he starts talking. He's got some low back pain, and he's got like glute pain and hamstring issues. And so I started using our device on his body to loosen up those muscles and just get that tension out. And it was really fascinating as I could start to see his whole demeanor relax, right? Because he was carrying that pain, because we think about, well, it hurts up here, right? Pain in our body is here, right? Because pain hits our brain in 14 different parts of the brain. 14, really? Yeah. Yeah. So all sorts of emotions, just how we carry our face. I mean, it's a lot, right? You think 14 different parts of the brain that affect 14 different parts of the body.
Wow.
Everything from breathing to heart rate to all of muscle control. And so I'm a big believer, right, that we manifest stress in our body.
Yeah.
And if you actually, when you start to map out the different parts of the brain that are affected by pain, you start to think about it. Well, I have a hard time breathing when I'm really stressed out. Well, it's because the brain is doing things to your lungs to make it feel that way. Or, my low back hurts or my hips hurt, whatever, that's the body's manifestation of trauma.
And even your cognitive abilities, like it's like some of your bandwidth is being sucked up by that pain.
Right.
It's like you're not thinking as clearly. Your
right.
whole frequency's off. Like your whole vibe is a little bit more shunted,
Oh, yeah. But this guy, as I was working with him throughout the day, I was just like, we started talking about stuff he'd been through in Ranger Battalion and all that. And you can imagine a bunch of deployments to Afghanistan as a medic and regiment. Like he's seen some stuff.
Yeah, he got it.
And so I could tell like he was just high stress. And so as I worked with him, I was like, man, you got to let some of this shit go. And he knew about my background. And as we were working through stuff, we'd start talking about things and start working through some of it. And then that night, because I was there for 12 hours of the 24-hour shift with them, and we did a reboot at the end of that 12 hours for him. And I just kind of leaned into him, and I was like, dude, just all this stuff that's happened to you through the years, you got to let it go.
Yeah.
You got to let this stuff. I was like, just pick one of these things and just blow it out of your body. And, within about 10 minutes, I could just see the whole face relax and all the normal stuff from the reboot that would happen. But it was just, so I feel like there's a lot of this I shouldn't say mental health, it's wellness type of thing that's going on that, it's high stress, man. And especially when you kind of stay in that world for as long as a lot of you guys have, the ability to reboot the nervous system, expand the field of view, suppress, all of these really interesting things that are happening with it. It's powerful, dude.
That's gnarly. When you said pick one of these things and let it out, blast it out, did you mean a topic, or was it a target that you guys have, or was that?
No, for him, it was just stress, right? I think it was, I didn't want to, it was my first time to meet this guy, and I didn't want to be like, hey dude, what have you been through? And so, I know personally, when you've been downrange, right? We all hold on to stuff.
Retain
for whatever reason. And so I just, I asked him a couple of times through the day. I was like, are there things that you've just held on to that you kind of stay with you? And he was like, yeah, there's a few. And so that was when I said, pick one thing. I said, just pick one of these instances and just blow it out, man. Just let it go. It's the past.
Yeah. Asks for information, not identification, man.
Look at you, man.
I do what I can, man. I'm just a jock grunt, bro. I had to work hard. I was the guy in boot camp. They were like, Rodgers ain't smart, but he gonna be real strong. So I had to work hard to try to get something in my brain box. But no, man, that's awesome. And then, like you were saying, rebooting the nervous system, man, because our bodies hold on to this memory of these traumas and getting blown up. Been in multiple IEDs, and I always wonder like how I'm different. I know how I'm different in many ways, but I know that my subconscious mind has like a knot in there, a couple, because I have caught 5 of them joints, that are like, it's that time, so that's really valuable. And then we'll get into your background, but just one question sparked off that is like, you're saying like rebooting the nervous system. Can you go into that a little bit? Like,
so this machine that we use is made by a company called NewX Technologies, and I used to work for them. And so they make a kind of a next generation electric stimulation device called the NX Pro, and we are their sole distributor for military and law enforcement in the U.S. And so the device is unique in that it has a blended waveform of electricity, so alternating current and direct current into a single waveform.
We're gonna get real sciencey, y'all. It's gonna happen. Just let it happen. just let it happen. Follow us, and Vance is gonna walk you to a place where you understand where we're going here. We get back to it in a minute.
Yeah. So the benefit, like most of us, especially vets, right? We've been around, and the VA or Army or military medicine has given us like a E-stem device, a TENS unit to put on your body, which is just alternating current. Mm-hmm. And so that just talks to motor neurons in the body. So it'll make a motor unit in a muscle fire. It'll make it trigger, which is what makes that muscle movement. Like if you've worked with a TENS device, that happens. So the challenge with TENS units is you can't move when you get to a high intensity through it. Like it'll seize a muscle, which is not good, right? And so all it's really doing is cycling blood to try to get lactate out of the muscles. And so what the NX Pro does, which is the device we use, is the alternating current blended with direct current. So the AC current talks to motor neurons. It can make motor neurons fire. But more importantly, what it does is it recruits more motor neurons for said task. Say shooting a gun, driving a car, doing close quarters battle, breaching, you name it, insert your task of choice into that, right? So we have a technology that what the AC current does is when you're doing the said tasks, let's say shooting, because that's what got us into this, right? The AC side of the waveform recruits 2,000 times the number of motor units and muscles that you would normally use. Okay. Super crazy. I mean, it's incredible, like what happens.
And you're not like over strong, because like one of the problems I've had with shooting is I like try to do it too hard sometimes. I've had to like literally be like, yo, bro, relax. Yeah. Like, you're not fighting. This isn't muscly time. Like you shoot fast, you can relax your hands and your forearms, bro. Like, and I had to like really work on being like not being like turtling and so I had to like. And so you have control, and you're not like all that action, all that stimulation doesn't cause you to overdo it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so that's really what it's almost like we rehearsed this, man, because the direct current side of the waveform is what talks to sensory neurons in the body. So think the nervous system. Okay. Right. And so one of the many interesting things, but so the DC side, that nervous system or sensory neuron kind of communication that we're able to have, muscle compensation, pain, any of that type of stuff, literally put the machine on, goes out the window, right? And so any imbalance that you may have, whether, especially if let's stay with shooting, right? Handgun shooting, so soldier, clavicle injuries, neck injuries, that create imbalances in the shooting platform, like it goes out the window. And so you almost instantly have this like balanced shooting platform that, right, when you pull the trigger, part of what we're trying to do is manage that recoil, right? And if you're unbalanced, the weapon's going to go to one side or another, or up or down more than normal, because your platform isn't stable. And so even if you're moving, and so we can stabilize that platform in a way that helps you control recoil faster, right? And so unlike the TENS unit that is all alternating current, what Nuix has done is created that waveform that is a little piece of AC current, so recruit more muscles, then the DC current that talks to the nervous system that says, hey, you can move as smoothly and as fast as you want. Wow. And now, since we're doing shooting, let's say, right, that waveform is going right into the parts of the brain responsible for shooting or responsible for driving. And so now we have this really fascinating concept that I call it neurological repetitions. And so the nervous system gets the amount of energy that it feels like 250 repetitions a second.
And so thus you form like stronger neural pathways and deeper, like lasting high quality software in your brain box. Maybe. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, totally, man. Because, then when you think about it, right, is, in a matter of, let's say, 10 minutes of training, you're going to get like 150,000 reps.
Oh, man. Yo, all y'all dry firing at home right now.
Right.
Like, this is the future.
Yeah, it totally is, man. So you think about it, right? And that's how, honestly, like I had one police department here in Texas. They were like, hey, can you work with remedial shooters?
Yeah.
And and so, I'm not a police officer. I never have been. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Tell me about this remedial shooting problem. And and this is the range master, for probably the second largest police department in Texas. Okay, let's just put it that way. He's like, well, I report that it's about 40% of the force has a problem qualifying. It's really much more than that.
Yeah, I was just deciding whether I was going to give him a pass on that.
And I don't have the law enforcement. I didn't at the time have the background that I do now with law enforcement. I'm like, well, what do you mean by much more? And he goes, well, it's probably like 70 or 80%. I'm like, what? Yeah. Anyway. And so I didn't go into it. I was like, all right, man, let's solve this problem for you.
Yeah, it is a problem. Let's work on it.
Right. And so they bring this group of, and this is one of the case studies and one of those one-pagers I sent you. So he brought a group of 10 remedials, and I had two firearms trainers from that department with us. And so, some of these police officers, these are females that are like 5'2", and you're like, man, you must be one tough lady to want to be a cop.
To want to play this game,
And so, some of these people, they're coming up to the firing line so nervous, like hands are shaking and, and issues. And so we do a reboot on them, and it's like within a minute, that's like all gone, right? And
reboot's like
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
I feel like medical industry, I see the advantages for them, but a pill versus a frequency that solves a problem, man, a frequency is such a less invasive, pretty amazing tool that, it's a smarter way to entry and make changes.
Hey, man, I've had a meditation practice for 3 years, 1,000 reps in 3 years, because I have an app, right, that keeps track of it. So you do, let's say, a reboot, right? And so I'll take you through some breathing and stuff when we do it. And so we do that at 110 hertz, which is like a super harmonic frequency for the human body. And so let's say we do a 10-minute reboot. Dude, that's like 300,000 meditations.
Wow.
Right.
Oh, right. It's just thank God, man. Wow.
Yeah. It is. It's really, let's go down to this section for this kind of subject for a moment, right? Because what happens now with that kind of volume of energy, the nervous system is then the brain is like, I might see this again. So I'm going to build all the neural pathways so I can do it again. Right. And it's just the way the body is designed. And so the more you do it, the neural pathways start to myelinate and get stronger and get protected, blah, blah, blah type stuff. But what happens is, like, I have some of these police officers, like I remember the first one, and he sent me a text late one night and I was asleep, and he was like, "Hey, can you grab coffee in the morning?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So, I hit him at 4:35 when I wake up and grabbed coffee, and he goes, "Man, you're not going to believe what happened to me last night." I'm like, "What?" He's like cruising up to a hit, hanging on the side of a Bearcat. And he's like, as my foot stepped off the ledge and I was watching where my foot was going to hit the ground, he's like, "I just remember the training we had 3 months ago." And he's like, "I could feel the stress just fall out of my body when my foot hit the ground." He goes, "I looked up and this dude's a breacher."
Yeah.
And he goes, my vision, I just went from seeing the doorway to seeing the whole front of the building. And he's like, I was just scanning windows to ID threats.
Nice.
And so I was like, and this was the first time anybody had shared this with me. And so I started incorporating that into when we do this reboot. And so now, cops are like, "Yeah, I was getting out of the car, I put my hand on the gun, and vision popped right open," type stuff. And so this passive ability that you have to be able to leverage this, again, because of the massive neuro reps that you're getting at the time. And so you have this massive memory and neurological pathway to something brand new that you didn't have. And so now you've associated high stress to relaxation, to expanded field of view, right? So for you guys, you've created that little bubble for your protectant, right? And so you're constantly scanning around.
Yep.
And so your ability to see everything in front of you, game changer, man.
Superpowers. And that's the thing people don't realize, man. Like a lot of these games we play, driving, shooting, just actually finding work in an emergency.
Oh yeah.
All of it has to do with, so much to do with your ability to see and visualize and see right things and see more aggressively. Like before I even shoot a stage, I'll walk up there and I'll open my eyes. I will underneath my eyes, I will open my eyes and remind myself, take this, all of this in, and because seeing more aggressively and seeing the right things is really not getting that target fixation or getting locked into this. Oh, I got to put this tourniquet on right now. And you're not, it's such a huge advantage. And then being able to stay calm and think. And I know you guys have probably all been in flow at some point in time. You shoot the stage or you do whatever it is and you get done. And it's it feels like it was slow motion because you're in that state, And it sounds like that's what this can help give you access to.
It's exactly what that's what AutoTelic means, baby.
Okay. This is too. This is too. We're on the same page. That's what's going on, right? But to the uninitiated, I don't go there because a lot of people are like, "Flow, what? Drinking something?" Right? I'll need to get that book, man. I forget the Asian. I think it was an Asian chick. Mimi. I can't remember. But
the one that did it for me was Stephen Kotler's Rise of Superman.
Really?
Right. Yeah. And so it's super well footnoted, documented. And so, I'm that guy that, I would read a section and he'd say, "Oh, this is what's going on." And so I would go to the footnotes and then I would go to that actual source document.
Yeah.
And read that stuff. Yeah, I would. But Rise of Superman is one of the best ones that I found on Flow. And then the seminal research back in the 70s and 80s is pretty amazing too. But Kotler's kind of like the Flow guy out there in the business world. He doesn't play in our space.
Okay, that's fine. We'll take it. We absorb what's useful, disregard what's useless, add what is essentially your own. Put a little Bruce Lee on it.
But back to the other remedial shooter story, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
Showed everybody out. We rebooted them, but in 8 training cycles, so 15 minutes. Every single one of these remedial shooters, right, were as fast and accurate as the 2 firearms instructors with 10 and 15 years of experience.
Oh, they were pissed. I mean, they're happy, but they're like, wow, this is man, this is next level. This is Superman stuff. That's awesome. And they retain these results? Like, is there
Great question. So one session gives you about 10 days to 14 days. Depends on the body, right? Stress and anxiety is a contributor that'll start to degrade that a little bit. But so 2 sessions, you'll get to about a month. And so I try to get folks to about 6 sessions, which will give you conservatively 6 to 8 months of kind of this heightened state of performance.
Wow. So this is a way of life. Okay.
It is. Yeah, like my wife will not let me travel without taking my box with us.
Yeah, so we got to get these boxes to the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the bigger reason, right, is I'm happy and I'm not like the anxiety level is like gone. And for me, like I haven't had nightmares in the last 2 years, right? I haven't had shit come back to me and stuff in my dreams, which is kind of for me, like is how it came back.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. No, that's good to go. That I mean, in terms of helping the community in multiple ways, like we're talking about tactics, but that's a long tail of a lot more that sounds like we can get done with this thing.
It's super impressive, man. I mean, it's like there've been times for me, dude, I'm like getting angles around the edge of my bed with gun in hand type stuff. In my underwear,
Oh yeah, those underwear moments, man, coming out of the abyss and the undies, man, ready to. We've been there, man. My wife had to learn how to wake me up for the first little while, She had to kind of be like, I'm like, listen, this is how this works. God bless her.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's dig a little bit into background, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man. What I usually like to ask it in a certain way. Where's my first question here? Oh, yeah. So, Vance, who are you at your core, brother? This is who is the man behind the work? We like to go a little deep,
Yeah. Who am I at my core, right? Yeah. It's, that changes right through our life right now, right? I'm a family guy, right? I've 3 kids, 2 from my first wife. So my oldest, he is an XO in First Steel 4 in the 82nd. So he got an all expense paid trip to Kabul just a few months ago.
Wow, that's impressive.
Why is that? I don't look that old.
I mean, that's you raised a dang-on warrior, man. Outstanding. Yeah.
Well, it's not right. As if you have older kids, it's not the road I thought he was going to go down, but it's the road he is going down, and you got to be proud of him, Mm-hmm. And then my middle child, she's living in Dallas, doing her thing, and then I have a 10-year-old little girl, right? So just turned 10, right? So multi-generational parenting, and so. That is, for me, it's a special opportunity to be able to raise a child again. And I treasure that to the core. Right? That's my why, know, and so all the stuff I did before she was born, she has no idea about. So,
so you're like the equalizer to her, you're like going and like playing with her and all this stuff. She's got no idea. That's awesome.
And so I've got to like start all over, right, for her, and so she can see the pictures of the White House and stuff on the wall, but she had what the hell that stuff means, and so like that's my why. I mean, that's what motivates me every day. It's part of when I go through my daily routine that I go through, like to make her proud and make my wife proud. Like that's who I am at my core.
That's awesome, man. And that's the ultimate driver, being, I don't know, I not to sound all like whatever-y, but it's the truth. Like being fueled by love is one of the, if not the most passionate, most powerful things, man. No greater love than this, the man that laid down his life for others, and that's a protector's ethos right there. Yeah. And when they're standing behind you and you got something to live for like that, that's awesome, man. That's the stuff. Dude,
I love that. Fueled by love. That's cool, man.
No, it is, man. We could be some bad dudes, but even, what did I say the other day, man? I said, because, I hate war. Like, I hate it. I feel like there ain't no reason two dudes can't sit down in a room and be like, hey, all right, let's just so everyone in our nations don't have to die. Let's sit down and talk about this. But, money and all this stuff. But I think I said something to the effect of like, being a warrior, I hate war. I wish it didn't have to happen, but as long as there are evil people, we have to be good at it. And that's our love language to protect those behind us. We have to be better at it than the bad people. So with our protector symbol, we have that steel-faced gladiator, and he's got one tier. He's got one tier.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, man. And that one tier is that, we don't want to do violence, but if we have to, it's sometimes with a heavy heart, but with love in our hearts at the same time,
Yeah.
Some of y'all will love that. Some of y'all will love what we just said. Let's see here. So I guess a little background, like where'd you come from? Tactical background, the whole, everybody always wants to know.
Yeah. So I'm a 92 grad from West Point, and then went to the 82nd Airborne. And as fate would have it, right, I had living in apartments off of Riley Road in Fayetteville. And the guy right across the stoop from us, this was, I got to brag in 93, right? And so really before cell phones, I think we had one computer in the company, that type of day, right?
That
before
was
satellites and shit.
We got one computer, like we're doing some things, it's the size of a room, but we doing some things,
Yeah, we still did training schedules by paper, man. Like I'd run them on the mimeograph machine and hand them out to guys, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was a day. But and so I remember the guy across the stoop from me, like he'd show up in these like PDs, no name tapes, no patches on them, flight suits, like no patches and shit. And he was driving this like brand new Corvette, and he was a cool cat, right?
Yeah,
and
man.
One Sunday morning, because I would get up and I'd run and work out and stuff on the weekends, and I was just out there getting ready to go run, and he pulls up in his vet in this flight suit and nothing on there, and he looked like he'd been on like a fucking 12-day drunk, like he was wrecked.
And yeah.
And he was like, you going for a run? Yeah, no problem, man. He goes, all right, be right back. So he comes back out, these Ranger Battalion Ranger panties, and we go for a run. And that kind of was the start of this relationship that he and I built. And about a year later, he was like, hey, I got somebody that's going to give you a call to see if you want to like come work with us. And I had still no idea what this cat did.
Yeah.
And so go to this like remote place on the backside of Bragg and show up and get invited to go to selection for them. And so did that, and then went to their training course and stuff. And it was one of these things that, I had covers for the whole rest of my Army career for the probably first 5 years I got out of the Army. I mean, it was that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And I had absolutely no idea like what I was getting myself into at the time, because I had challenging, I'll say this for the public crowd here, first marriage. Right. And as a late 20, early 30-year-old, did not have the maturity to manage that well. Yeah. And so I was looking for a way out. I was like, that looks fun. And
right.
Yeah. And so did that for a long time. My last kind of job in the Army was working at the White House. And so it was kind of multi-role type of deal that I had based off my cover and what I was really doing at the time. And then one day we were doing some training, some prep for a trip that we had coming up. And it was a normal, it's probably about a week's worth of work. And up in northern part of DC. And so I was taking the metro back to my where I had my car parked. And it was it was off schedule. So we just got done. We all decided to bounce for the rest of the day. So we got done like middle of the day. And so I'm sitting there leaning up against the railing, waiting for my train. Mm-hmm. And this incredibly beautiful Indian woman comes up and leans like way too close than is normally acceptable in public.
Yeah. You're like, well,
like touchy.
Yeah. You're the danger zone, girl. Get lost in the dark without a flashlight. If you're telling me, so I'm picking it up right now.
Uh-huh. And so, she started making small talk, and then quickly it was like, so how's your relationship with your wife? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, this is kind of weird. So just kind of like I bounced from that. My train came up, and she said she was on the same train, and I just said, see you later, got on the train, and she did not get on that train. So I was like, something's not right here.
Yeah. So I'm not this sexy. Am I this sexy? One of those when you're like, this is too easy. So, I'm gonna wake up in a bathtub missing a kidney.
And so I was, my train went past one of our offices and where our security guys were. And so I went in there and I told them what happened. And then I was like, come to think of it, there's this other lady. When I first moved to DC, she was this, I studied Russian, was one of my majors at West Point. And so I graduated, I was fluent in Russian, right? Because got to West Point in 88. Russia was still a big thing. I was like, I'm going to go fight the Russians. And so I go to, that was my thing. It was a long time ago, right? And so then as this started happening, I started connecting a bunch of other stuff. And I go to security guys and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. They were like, yeah, we knew this.
Oh, guys, you just gonna let me just, that's a honeypot. Thank God you're married, because I probably, anyway, that's how they would have got me. And if I was in my career, that's how they would have got me, man. They'd have got your boy. Would have been no podcasts. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and that, right. And that's, once I knew that, I was like, oh, this is like,
that's high.
This is like big league, right? And I don't mind getting in a fight like the next guy, but you start bringing my family into it. Because I was, my brain, I was like, went off the deep edge after that and was started like connecting so many things that probably were or were not connected. And so I called one of our tech guys on my way home, because we had just moved. We just bought this new place out in Northern Virginia. So I gutted the whole thing, right? Put new hardwood floors in, new paint, literally gutted the place.
Lots of vendors. Lots of vendors, man.
Yeah. Right. And so I called our tech guys. I was like, hey, can you meet me at my house like in a half hour or so? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, bring a kit. He was like, got it. Yeah. And so it's middle afternoon. So it was just nobody else was home. And he started finding shit like all over the house. And not only like the word, I mean, that was a surprise. The thing that really blew me away was it was like stuff from many different countries. So China stuff, Indian stuff, Russian stuff, American stuff, like everybody. And
oh, interesting.
And so after that, man, I was like, I'm out. I was like, I'm not playing this game. Like nobody, and now I can be like, okay, I can handle this. I can deal with it. I can manage it. But like back then, I was like, nah, I'm not playing this game. My kids were young, man. My youngest was. She was like 4, I think, at the time. 3. So my son was 5 at the time.
Man, and in my house right now, man. Like quarterly. Yeah. Jeez, man. Okay.
Yeah, and so I bounced. I went through the process right after that to like get out of that whole world. And then from there for really with 16, 17, 18 years, was a civilian and doing tech stuff in that space. And then 2 years ago, kind of stumbled on this whole using electricity to really what I thought was shoot faster and more accurate, which is really just a whole kind of like gateway to human performance. So, and I've, what gave me the foundation of it is shooting background was all the OGA stuff that I was doing and military stuff. But I call myself a recovering ultra endurance athlete. So I've done a bunch of 100-mile ultra marathons, a bunch of 50s. Yeah. And then when I couldn't do that anymore, I started ultra endurance mountain bike racing. So like cross country on a mountain bike, unsupported. So you try to get your body to race a mountain bike for 2 weeks, things start to fall apart. And so you learn a lot about the body. And so it's kind of how I ended up here, and not so much of a nutshell, but a kind of one.
No, that's good, man. That's all real good information. And then, so really you're like a person who's always been, one, living on the edge, and then two, pushing to unlock maximum potential, at least from your physical body.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you marry that with this technology, and this is like right up your alley.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, this is, for me personally, like this is the first time in my life, like, it's our decisions that make our life. Right. But it's the first time in my life that I can like go back for really more than that. I mean, probably 30 years, the last 30 years, which has given me the foundation to do what I do now.
Exactly. And everything works together. It's wild how that works, man. Everything.
Yeah.
The wins, the losses, if you just have the right mindset to make everything serve you and then keep the right perspective on it, man.
Yeah.
You really can. It's like an alchemy, by the grace of God, you can get it all. It all ends up lining up, man. It's beautiful.
100%.
Do you, now that you've been working with the technology for about 2 years, do you experience longer lasting benefits?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's in so many ways, like I'm my own guinea pig, and I've got some buddies, some local SWAT guys here in Austin that I do some work with and train with, and they kind of are my lab rats sometimes. But for me, I mean, like the normal kind of sense of awareness, kind of relaxed state lasts a few weeks. I try, and so there's a lot of guys have been like, well, I'm going to do this every day. And so I've done that with enough people, and I've done it with enough myself. Like there's something about that just, the body is much more open to it when you kind of allow the natural
flow,
natural rhythms of everything. And so like honestly, like I did my first reboot on myself in at least 5 weeks, or 4 to 5 weeks, 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
But I work out with it, and quite often. And so there's some balance, I think, to maybe some of that. It's at a different frequency, a much higher frequency, but first reboot, 5 weeks is probably about my norm right now.
Awesome. Sweet. So, so, okay. So this, I mean, my natural thought is like, man, I'd love to get a hold of one of these things. Yeah. Is this something that you need an operator, or is it something that people can purchase and have in the comfort of their own homes? Or what would you say about that?
Good question. There's the short answer is really both. Yeah. And so I feel like it's, from my experience, it's really like, you develop the level of expertise that you want to be an expert in, right? So if you want to be an expert EP guy, if you want to be a police officer, you want to, whatever it is that your deal, like, I feel like that's your thing, and 2 years ago we thought like, hey, you're gonna buy this device, and I don't have one with me. I should, but this is my Microsoft Surface, so it's about the same size, but just about that thick. And so a couple of years ago we were like, yeah, you're gonna buy this thing, and it's gonna make you better. And
like,
so
can you do other things, like learn to play the guitar with it and stuff?
You can. Yeah. I mean, there's some balance of the neural pathways really need to kind of be there to some degree. Okay. Or like those first couple of sessions, like I've taken brand new shooters, which like had a gun for 2 weeks type of stuff and never shot before. The first session, wheels kind of fall off, right? Because it's just a ton of information, and plus they're getting the stimulus, and so it's a lot. But man, the second session, it's massive improvements, and still in a way that you can't replicate on your. That would take a decade plus to like get that level of experience.
Wow.
But yeah, you can. And so, yeah, if you want to buy one of these things, you can definitely buy one. We're happy to sell it to you. Right. But the other piece is there, especially when it comes to kind of the more lethal skills of shooting guns, of CQB, of, executive protection driving or aggressive driving, whatever these kind of skills that are in our world. Right. I mean, there's a level of expertise with the NX Pro that we have now that it would take you time to figure it out.
Okay.
You can do that, or like I've done with several police departments, and like we're doing with one of the tier 1 units, their next new operator class starting in September is you can just have us come work with you.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, like that's in a firearms world, like that's the world we prefer to be in, because ideally, like I don't want to be a firearms trainer, right? Like this is my thing. And so I leverage the technology with your shooters as a trainer. And so you get faster results and better results in less time, type of thing. Like we were with, Grand Prairie Police a few weeks ago. Yeah. And this range master was like, I got a guy for you. And this was the first time. So he's like, let's start with one dude, and then we'll get to the rest of this group that you have. And so he was a problem child.
Just taste the magic, They have a pinky in there.
He was the problem child. And so patted this cat up. We go to town on what this range master called his Skittles drill, right? So it's one of those silhouette targets that's got the body parts in it. And then on the sides, it's got like the different colored shapes and numbers and stuff in there. Yeah. And so he ran this kid through this Skittles drill. And first session, 2 targets. I want to say like 5 rounds of 5 cycles of training. So maybe 15 minutes. Then he goes off, does some other gun work, comes back, and we do the second one. Man, if I was at my house, I'd show you the targets because I have them hanging up behind me in my office, but 50% faster, 50% more accurate. So you see shot groups, overall dispersion like this. I mean, cut in half in this cat in like 30 minutes of training. Wow. And so this range master grabs this kid's targets, holds them up to his boss, and was like, I can't do what you want me to do without us. Without us.
Okay.
Because it's a police department, right? So they don't have the money to do the training. They don't have the time to do training because they're all understaffed, right? So most of these guys are working doubles or triples, and the last thing they want to do is go to the range and shoot.
Right.
Or it's like this was a class of police officers that are coming into a police department, and this time is getting chopped, half a day here, a day here, that he was like, I can't get the standards you want me to get in the amount of time that you give me without Vance.
So you need the chef, man. You got to get the chef. And I imagine it's very important to get the right reps and the right type of reps if they're going to be so heavily impacting your maybe I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So I got a question for you. I'll ask you one back. Like what's a bad rep?
Like I think the most common one is guys just like dry firing at home, trying to go faster and just like maybe just throwing, like, you get a bad grip and you just keep on kind of going with it. And instead of taking your time to get like, all right, I got my master grip and I'm where I want to be. Like when I start dry firing, usually I'll start off at like a medium speed. And then I feel like, okay, this is how I want to do it. Then I'll start trying to taper up the speed a bit. So those sloppy reps or if you don't know the fundamentals, really, trying to still execute on the action, trying to get the rounds on target without actually implementing the fundamentals, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I mean, I kind of used to be that way, but I'm a believer right now. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Educate me.
the best kind of training program out there,
Mm-hmm.
it's the one that you do,
That you actually
right?
do. Yeah.
That you actually do.
That you actually do. Yeah. That's
Right.
true.
Because if you think about it, right, if you can walk in and in 20 minutes you're getting 300,000 reps, like one bad trigger pull, one bad grip, like, okay, you're going to get 280,000 more, right? I mean, it's, and so with the NX Pro, with us, you're able to like override those I'd say bad habits, in the blink of an eye, and in a single repetition, physical repetition, you're able to override it in an instant. And so you're able to learn the proper way instantly.
Wow.
And so, and in my mind, like there is no such thing as a bad rep. A rep is a rep.
Okay.
Right. And then the other concept is really this lethality continuum that we've kind of been developing, because in old school, at least in my expert opinion, right, it was, accuracy comes with speed type of thing, or no, I would have it right. You got to go slow to be accurate. And so
this fast thing.
Yeah. And so like, I'm a believer, man. Like I've got roughly 27,000 data points now on all the guys that we've worked with, and speed begets accuracy. I mean, I can show you dudes that are going super fast, and then the accuracy just comes right into that after 10, 15, 20 minutes, somewhere in there usually.
Wow. I have to agree with you, man. Well, the guy that Luke Agajanian, who's a master shooter out here, he, kind of walked me into the shooting world, and we were talking a year or so ago, and he's like, what I've found? He's like, these guys that start off in the open division with like the easiest gun you can shoot fast, and just focus on going fast. It's almost like you learn how to do it faster. Like you learn how to drive a sports car, it's like, and you actually just learn how to do it faster instead of learning how to do it and then trying to go faster. It's like, no, just learn how to do it faster. I hope that's not too simplified. Aim more, miss less, shoot faster. But really, it's like when you learn how to do it faster, man, you got to do it faster to learn how to do it faster. So
it's true. There's a lot of these, like I call them like neuro firearms trainers that are out there, and and they stress like building the neural pathways and all that type of stuff, and so they'll start them slow, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna learn slow. Like, you want to learn slow? Do you want to learn fast? I was like, when these cats like go out in the street and they're on call and they're on a shift, like shift doesn't go down slow; it goes down fast, and so you got to be able to perform to that. And so that's where we're a believer. Like, one of the concepts, like when we're at the range that I share with shooters, I mean, even tier 1 dudes, I'm like, man, you got to allow yourself to be faster.
Yep. Let the wheels come off and then learn how to put it back on while you're in there. And
Yeah. And so I've seen, I mean, thousands of times now to where as long as we're getting faster and shit's still on the paper, or still on target, like we keep going. And because then what happens is right after that is when the accuracy comes into play, because it's pretty magic. And I've played around with it enough now that I'm 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. What about this Murph thing? Hit this case study in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that case study. It looked pretty gnarly.
Dude, it's so who doesn't know about the Murph Hero one, right? So, mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, mile run with 20 pounds. And so, I'm a vet like a lot of folks out there. And Memorial Day 2020, so COVID, right? All lockdown. So all my buddies were throwing our Murph times into Signal. And that day, May 30th, 2020, I was, it's COVID and all that just stuff around that. I started adding up the names of what Murph meant something to me for, and I got to 53.
Wow.
So I decided to do Murph 53 times, not in a row, but for 53 days. Right.
Okay. Wow.
So and so I break it into 10 sets. Like to do it that many times, like that it tears up your hands enough you can't do pull-ups and stuff. So I broke it into 10 sets, but doing it 53 times, I know my best time, which was 40. I should have it open here. 47 minutes, 14, I think 47. Let's say 47 minutes. And so fast forward, start doing all this like crazy shooting stuff that I've been doing, working with NUX. I get my first NX Pro March of 2021. And,
you're already a slow Murph guy, though.
Yeah, I felt like it, right? I felt like it.
No, you're just fine. That's what's up,
dude. I was like in the middle of the pack of my group, and I was like, damn. But so fast forward, I get my NX Pro. I start working out with it a couple months before Memorial Day 2021.
Yeah.
And with no mind of Murph in focus at all, or focus of my training, just doing CrossFit stuff. I follow the programming for a gym here called Atomic Athlete, which is like, CrossFit on steroids type of thing. And
CrossFit ain't good enough. Yeah. Right. CrossFit is for mortals.
Yeah.
We want it on steroids. I love it.
These dudes are crazy. Like one of the founders, he's a regiment guy. Another one was a trainer up at Mountain Athlete in Utah. If you guys are familiar with Mountain Athlete Institute up there. I know it's Jackson Hole, Wyoming is where it is.
Okay.
I mean, these dudes are like nuts.
You do anything on a mountain, it's more of a real deal. I learned my lesson in dang mountains. Yeah.
So Memorial Day 2021, I roll out there, pad up the NX Pro just to get activated, get warmed up. Got the heart rate like 120, 130, throw on the desk, and I'm walking down my driveway, and I'm like, I'm going to crush Murph today. Yep. And, and so I lay out my rocks so I know when I hit 10 sets and I'm not going to like screw it up. And so I roll out there, do my 10 sets. I'm coming across the finish line. I hit stop on my watch, and I see the 3-0 for 30 minutes. And I was like, fuck, I could have gone faster.
Really?
That was my first thought. Yeah. So I was like 30 minutes at 30-12 or 30 minutes.
That's that flow thought, man. Like whenever I hit that state, I get done and I'm like, man, I felt like I was in slow motion. I could have done that faster. And everyone's like, oh, your time, like you killed it. And I'm like,
yeah.
What? Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with that. It's much more than flow. When you apply this type of current to the body, what happens is it draws blood flow to those muscles.
Oh.
Okay. So more blood flow, right? And so
allow you to do more as not just as psychological.
Right. More. And so you think about, are you still there?
Oh yeah, I'm right. I got you.
Okay. Now the screen went blank. But so more blood flow, right? And so what does the body do to that? It adapts. And it adapts by building vessels, blood vessels. So now you have more blood flowing to those muscles, more oxygen going to those muscles. You've trained the nervous system that you're recruiting many more motor units than you normally would to do work. And so now you're able to output way more. And that's how I got like 34% better in a matter of 2 months. And so the crazy thing is I was like, oh, this is some kooky, 20 years of ultra endurance stuff that just happened to manifest on May 30th, 2021.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like it was, the planets weren't aligned that I could run faster or something like that.
The spirit of Goggins.
Yeah. So this was the first time I reached out to a bunch of SWAT buddies here in town. I was like, hey, you guys want to be lab rats? And so sure enough, got 4 of them, same, and they're all SWAT dudes, so they're in good shape. But the average improvement for them was 26%. 2 months, 18 workouts is all that we did. The average workout time was 30 to 43 minutes long.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, man. Like this is truly like if you take a box, and this is where I've been for however many years, or if you have a team or a department, this is where the box that all of my guys fit into. Move that box up 20% at least, and that's where you are afterwards.
Wow. That is amazing, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so the crazy thing, like my business partner, Harold Hill, so he was the medical sergeant major for the unit his last 16 years in the Army. And we had just finished the first working with one of the tier 1 units for our first time. And we were sitting at dinner that night. I was like, it'd be dope if, like this whole unit could be trained with us. Like, imagine, that would take a team of 12 guys into 15, if you're 20 or 30% more lethal.
Right.
And then you start playing that math out. And so just think about it from a regular infantry company. That's like adding a platoon to every infantry company in the military.
Wow. Man.
Yeah.
That's a force multiplier.
That's huge. Or even police wise. So you've turned what would have been a 6-officer call into 4-officer call.
Wow.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Man.
So it's like adding 400,000 more soldiers to the battlefield and 300,000 more cops to the street.
That's a no-brainer. Awesome, man. That is huge. Wow.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Hardest lesson you've learned in the field, either from your tactical career or even doing this stuff. The hardest lesson.
Yeah. Treat people with respect.
Very important.
Yeah. And this was as a brand new second lieutenant, right? So we were he was a JRTC or NTC. Back in the day at Bragg, man, we were going all over the place. And so I think it was NTC. So I had a cat that radio guy lost a ComSec device at night in the box at the National Training Center.
Bruh.
and right, it's Army, right? So the thing is dummy corded around your neck. Like your weapon and all the other compass and all the important stuff, right?
Yeah. Come on, man. You gotta find him on that. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so I went apeshit on him.
Yeah, he could beat
on the radio too.
Oh man, so in front of everybody.
Okay. And so for me it was one of those first like big professional lessons that I realized that I'd learned. And so I'm standing in front of the whole platoon and I was like, I'm sorry. And explain to everybody what happened because everybody fucking heard what happened and at least their perspective. And I apologize for treating him this way. And it made it better. And the guy appreciated that. Fortunately, platoon sergeant found the ComSec device in about an hour.
Woo! Crisis averted. Nobody's going home. Nobody's going home tonight. Man.
But that was a hard one. Besides like almost dying a bunch of times too, but that was the first like really hard one. So that's why I probably stick with it.
Yeah, man. But you made it. Apologizing in front of your platoon goes a long way, I think, man. And being cool enough, being the type of person to even consider that says a lot about your character, man. That's huge too.
Yeah.
No, that's a good one. Treat everyone with respect. I always say anybody can kill you. And anybody can kill you. You think you're bad. And everything good and bad in your life will come through relationships. You never know. You never know who's watching you. I had a guy today in the gym, just kind of like, you could just tell he just kind of wanted to say hi. And, I'm in the zone. I got my pre-workout, the beast is out, I got things, I'm banging weights, in my little corner. And then, he walks kind of by me and I'm, fortunately I already have this ingrained and I'm just like, hey man, morning dude, how you doing? And we talk a little bit and he's like, yeah. And he asked me what I do. So then I'm like, all right, we're doing that. So I asked him what he does. And he's like, yeah, I'm the district attorney. I'm like,
oh, snap. Yeah.
I'm like, I hope I never have to see you, but it's good to know you. You need a spot? Like, you need let me wipe that machine down for you, Just like that, and, we had a positive contact. And I'm beginning my social engineering already, and I'm a good guy. Every time he sees me, so, man, that lead with respect, 100%.
There you go.
Huge for life. Yeah. What would you say is your proudest moment in the field?
Proudest? Honestly, it was that time I told you about a couple of years ago. when really the first time we got to work with a tier 1 unit.
Wow.
Right. And so by that time, I'd probably had 100 or so sessions, at all levels. And I remember I was padding up these operators, and Harold was behind me and he was helping me, and got the first guy padded up and getting ready to turn everything on and go hot. And I leaned over to Harold and I was like, sure hope this works, man.
Yeah. There's a moment.
Yeah.
I know I did my diligence. I know I've done everything, but I really hope this worked. Am I crazy? Why am I even here? Yeah. It's like when you're going up on the roller coaster, you're like, I wanted to do this. This seemed like a good idea. You're like, am I sure?
Yeah.
Why am I even here? Like, what did I do? That's awesome.
Right. And that was the first time we'd ever worked with guys like that, man. And so I had no idea like what would happen. And so sure enough, I mean, so you take this tier 1 unit, and I work with them all now, and they are HRT in my opinion. And I shouldn't say that. The data shows they are the best shooters in the world.
Wow.
But 21% faster, 35% more accurate in roughly an hour of training.
Wow.
At that level, right? And I remember, and so I remember when I started seeing those numbers, it was super cool. And I was, validated everything I had done up to that point. But we ended that 2 day of training. We were doing some night vision work, right? So nods and indoors and a night range. And I had this one part of this team on one end of the range, and then the rest of them was doing some other night vision work on the other end. And I could hear them. They were, whatever the drills were, they were doing, they were timing it kind of like what we were. And I could hear the team leader down there. He's being like 1% faster, 3% faster. Like it was, he was trimming the margins. Right. And so, and I called that out, right? When we had our kind of like follow-up in our report that we provided to him, like, your guys were trimming the fat down here. We were taking an axe over here, going 20 and 30% better in a fraction of the time.
Man, that's awesome.
And so for me, like, it was super. That was one of the proudest moments of my life, because it was, in addition to kids and all that stuff. But it really validated a lot of what we're doing.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome. Favorite quote, mantra, saying?
Well, I mean, right now, honestly, it's a Goggins one, which is just, I can't remember. It's one of the things, part of one of my daily routines, right? There's a bunch of like YouTube stuff that I go through, and there's one of those Goggins ones to where he just talks about savagery, right? Which it's just a word that he made up, but savagery is like one of those things that, as I've gotten older, especially at my place in life, like there's just a lot. Things were easier when I was younger. And so to be able to take a new business, a totally new concept that's foreign to everybody, and just being a savage about it is really just one of these things that I've had to kind of adopt. Yeah. And so that is one of those things that every single day, this little 9-minute Goggins thing comes on when I do my workout in the morning, and it gets me going, man.
I love that, man. I'm the same way, man. When I work out, I'd be listening to all my moto. I have a playlist I put together over the last like decade of like 700 motivational
there you go,
like that. And I put that on and I just start hammering, man. And that's
you do the same thing, dude.
Right? Like, no, like I don't listen to any pop culture, anything. It's going in my head. It's making me smarter, better, or it's the type of music I can think and meditate and deconstruct things to,
oh man. Yeah.
The next question is favorite habit people should consider to improve their lives. But you've been talking about this daily routine a little bit.
Yeah. The biggest, honestly, man, the biggest thing I think for me, I had one of the paramedics I was working with, he brought it up because we kind of did a recap podcast this past Saturday with him. And he kind of commented on just a few things about me that just got me thinking. And so it kind of plays in line with our reboot, but which is just being mindful. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of practice is something that, like I said earlier, I started it 3 years ago, but I believe like this is one of the core things from an emotional perspective that's just helped me recognize what's going on with the reboot. And it's shown me that there's some distance between an event and emotion. And it's our choice to be able to let that emotion go. Right. Yeah. And we may need to, given on the situation.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's our choice. Right.
Yeah.
And so when you're dealing with other people, to treat people with respect, sometimes you don't want to let those emotions go, especially with our kind of backgrounds. So mindfulness is top of the list for me.
Huge. And find a perspective. Like something hits me and it hurts or it's bad. It's like, dude, is it bad? Like nothing's good, nothing's bad. What you think makes it bad, And so I it's like that I call it alchemy of the mind. It's like, how can I make this thing serve me? Okay, I'm still here. I'm stronger because of it. Okay. It didn't kill me. So you know what? That's a scalp, man, for me. That's a stripe for me. That's some struggle credentials, maybe. What did I learn from this? I ain't gonna let this thing. Sometimes I win, sometimes I learn. I ain't gonna let this just happen. This didn't just happen. I'm too conscious to just let this, And so I try to build yourself up with that perspective. It so makes life. And then if you can tap into like even gratitude for the challenge, what? This is life's love language. I'm honored by this challenge. Who would David be without Goliath? This is in front of me to make me get better, or if you can tap into compassion for someone who's done something bad for you, man, it sucks that he's living in that state to where he feels like he needs to do this, I'm okay. Yeah. I'm right here, and you can, that stuff you're talking about is that's cooking with tartar sauce right there, man. That's that blue cheese right there.
Yeah. Yeah, kids.
I got one and I got one on the way.
There you go, man. You're a great dad.
I'm trying. We got a lot to do still, but I'm gonna do my best. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, man. Yeah. What are you up to these days and where can people find you, sir?
Yeah. So website's AT-PS.com. Again, AT-PS.com. And then Instagram is AutoTelic _performance. And I've been remiss on posting stuff, but I'll have a bunch that's coming out here probably in the next week or so. But those are the two best ways. AT-PS.com and AutoTelic _performance on IG.
And then if you could send me those links, I'll put them in the show notes for everybody for sure. You got it. Man, Vance, this has been super dope, to use a scientific term. This is awesome, man. We're leveling up protectors. You guys better take advantage of this. Get this to your training directors, your department heads, and get Vance out here, man, to train you guys, because it's awesome. This is an edge, and it also sounds like it'll improve our overall well-being. So definitely something we want to find ways to capitalize on, man. That's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Byron. It's an honor, sir.
Dude, the honor's mine, man. Heck yeah. That's awesome.
This is my MCK. There are many like it, but this one is mine. If you've got a firearm sitting around, a pistol that you are not doing anything with, get an MCK. They make them for every single model. If you want a micro conversion kit that will turn your handgun into a force multiplier, get one, man. They are ultra affordable. CAA, MCK micro conversion kits are changing the game, y'all. So if you don't have one, you need to get one. Get one. Your women, children, people that are less physically potent will be able to fire your firearm to farther distances with more accuracy. You will be able to fire your firearm to farther distances with more accuracy. I want to get one of these into the hands of 100,000 more protectors this year, because ultimately we are only as good as the nation is only as good as its protection. Your home is only as safe and as good as your ability to protect it. MCK, go get one. Drop your handgun in, take it to the next level. Out. Boom. Yo, if you're a private security professional wanting to take your game to the next level, go to executiveprotectiontrainingday.com to check out my personal success package for private security professionals. Check it out, executiveprotectiontrainingday.com. And remember, y'all, hard skills do save lives, but soft skills get you paid. Boom. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can, because it makes all of these things possible. Thanks for those contributions. Yo, and before we go, I got to shout out to the sponsors, starting out with Primary Weapon Systems, PWS. They truly are the evolution of the rifle. Use Byron for 10% off. Grayman & Company, the most comfortable tactical suits in the game. Use Byron for 10% off with them. Until the next podcast, this is Byron Rodgers, protector by nature and by trade. Out.